Good evening. The time is now 6:01, and I will call to order this hybrid public meeting. It is March 6th, 2024. My name is Julie Bond, and I'm the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. Regular meetings and public hearings of the Clark County Historic Preservation Commission are held in a hybrid format with both in-person and virtual participation options for commissioners, staff, and the public. This will allow for safe participation by commission members, staff, and any citizen interested in attending. For those of you joining remotely via computer, you should be able to see tonight's meeting agenda on your screen. If you can't see the screen and have joined by phone only, I will be announcing the agenda items as we move through the meeting topics. Members of the public and applicants that have joined remotely are attendees. Other event participants cannot hear your audio unless you are acknowledged by the commission chair or staff and are unmuted. This evening's agenda is planned as follows: roll call and introductions, prior meeting notes approval, public comment for subjects other than public hearings on this meeting's agenda, as there will be specific public comment periods as part of the hearings, an update regarding the Stinger House interpretive plan, an update for the Donegan building nomination. We will postpone the HPC rules and procedures update that is currently on the agenda for a later meeting. Then we will move to the IBR Section 106 mitigation information follow-up, the Chalachi Prairie Railroad Historic Promotions Grant approval update, commission announcements and events, subcommittee updates and announcements, good of the order, and adjournment. We will now have a roll call of HPC members who are present for this meeting. Commission members, please say "I'm here" after I call your name. Jan Bader.
I'm here.
Morgan Fraser. Here. Andy Gregg.
I'm here.
Heidi Mandler Huff.
I'm here.
Elaine Thatcher.
I'm here.
John Zingali, sorry. Okay. And Julie Bond, I am here. First order of business are our meeting notes approval for the February 7th meeting. They are still being drafted, and staff will present the February minutes with the minutes for this meeting as part of the April 3rd agenda. We will move on to public comment. We'll take public comment on any items outside of public hearing items. We will begin with attendees in the room. Please approach the microphone if you would like to make a comment. Okay. Seeing none in the room, we will now take public comment from online attendees. Susan, can you please read the instructions?
If you are using a computer or the WebEx application on a tablet or smartphone, if you would like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand. There are instructions on the screen on how to do this. Typically, the hand icon is located towards the bottom of your screen, but you may need to click on the icon that looks like a circle with 3 dots in order to see the raised hand option. For anyone on the telephone, please dial *3 on your phone's number panel to raise your hand. Staff will be able to see your hand once they are raised and will request to unmute you one at a time. Please note that public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person in order to accommodate all speakers. I do not see any raised hands. Oh, I'm sorry. Holly Chamberlain has her hand up. Okay. Holly, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hey, this is John. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Commissioner Zingali.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute before.
That's okay. We have marked you as present. Thank you so much, John.
Okay, Holly, go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners, staff, and guests. This is Holly Chamberlain from the Historic Trust. Some notes from our properties to update you on and from the City of Vancouver properties. The certificate of completion for the Providence Academy Southeast parking lot renovation has been received from the City of Vancouver. The long-awaited new chairs for Providence Hall have arrived and have been put into use for Academy events. The Grant House re-roofing project is undergoing contract closeout at the City of Vancouver. The project came in under budget. In concert with its Oregon and Washington partners, the Trust is preparing a slate of IBR mitigation concepts for submittal to the Cultural Resources Stakeholder Group and IBR consultants. The Trust is working with an archaeologist detailed until early May to Fort Vancouver National Historic Site to firm up several 106 reviews for reserved properties. Applications are now being accepted for the annual Youth Heritage Project offered by the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation. The free week-long summer camp for high schoolers will be held this year at Eby's Landing National Historic Reserve on Whidbey Island. Students will explore maritime heritage, do hands-on conservation, and work with local cultural resource organizations. More information at preservewa.org. A pilot project underway by the Trust to expand free tour times at the Academy and at the Marshall House is underway. Tours will now also be available at the Academy on most first Fridays from 5 to 7 p.m. and at the Marshall House on the first Saturday of most months from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Interested people are encouraged to check the Trust website to sign up for tours and double-check availability. And we thank our dedicated docents for generously sharing their time and expertise with the larger community. In partnership with the NAACP Vancouver branch, the Trust is presenting a Humanities Washington program by historian and educator Kanita Cobbins-Modica entitled, "We Are Also in Bondage Here, Black Women in the Washington Civil Rights Movement," on Thursday, March 14th. The free program begins at 6 p.m. at the Red Cross Building, 605 Barnes Street, Vancouver. More information at www.humanities.org. The next presentation of the Vancouver Barracks Military Association lecture series is Photographers of Vancouver Barracks. Historian and archaeologist Jeff Davis will present images from his extensive collection of vintage photographs of Vancouver Barracks and environs, along with biographical information on photographers such as Laura Lee Otis. Images will include rare historic interiors of the Marshall House, numerous views of Vancouver Barracks, and hopefully a portrait of late 19th century barracks feline habitué, Jabberwock the cat. Many of the photos have not previously been shared publicly. The free program will be held on Thursday, March 28 at 6:30 p.m. at the Howard House, 750 Anderson Street, Vancouver. Trust President and CEO Temple Lentz is in Washington, D.C. this week as part of the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation delegation participating in the annual Preservation Action Lobby Day federal advocacy event. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Really appreciate that. This concludes the general public comment portion of this meeting. We will now move on to new business, and the first item is an update on the Stinger House interpretive plan. Linda Heglin is here representing the Stinger House and will begin the discussion. Welcome.
I also have my partner in crime, Kelly Putney, so
Great.
he might be able to add comments also. Rob Seaman, one of our crack carpenters working on the house, hopefully is online for this. I don't know if he is here or not.
I don't see his name up there, but do you know if you said his name is Rob Seaman?
Rob, R-O-B, yeah.
Yes, he is an attendee. I'll move him over to a panelist.
Pardon?
She said that he is online, and she will move him into the panelist so he can also contribute.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
So go ahead. The floor is yours.
Tell you what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there have been a lot of changes in the house. Brad Richardson and Sean Dennison and Katie did an interpretive report, which I shared, and I see a copy of it here. Since then, they have kind of completely redone the inside of the house. They've taken out all of Jane's creations. They've taken the fabric off the walls and the ceilings. The upstairs had a makeshift kitchen bathroom. That's all been removed. Of course, the steps here are no longer showing. And they are currently inside working on the kitchen right now. They have sealed the walls on there, and they will be painting the ceiling. I don't know if they've done anything with the floors recently. Rob may know. And the makeshift closet in the bedroom has been removed. Outside, though, is where one of the biggest changes has happened. The house has been primed and painted. Most of it is painted a beautiful yellow color. And from the old unprotected gray, there is a small portion that was only primed because we ran out of weather to do that. The front porch remains the gray that it was painted several years ago, but because it's protected, they didn't push to get that painted this last summer. Anything else, Kelly?
I could jump in
You've received the
there. Okay.
Oh, there's Rob.
Yeah, I'm here. I could
What
give a
would you
little
like
more
to add,
detail.
Rob?
Okay,
Well, a little more detail on the color of the paint was chosen
is.
based on, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The color of the paint was based on the oral history by Dr. Weber, who, when he bought the house, mentioned that the house he was looking at down next to it was a yellow farmhouse. And then we investigated and found clues that there was yellow paint behind some trim and some green paint also behind trim that we were able to kind of color match. We worked with Miller Paint. They were very helpful. Talking to a chemist there, explained that the yellow would have gotten much darker where it was hidden from sunlight and much, much lighter where it was exposed. So we had kind of the color family, but not so much the tone but we were able to get kind of the shade that matched what it probably was back in 1950, and the green as well. Then Miller also provided some painting, I forget what they called themselves, experts in painting, and they recommended several things. They used PPG Permanizer, and it is kind of preserved some of the wood, especially on the south side. It was extremely weathered, but that really firmed up the wood where we didn't have to replace really any of the siding, even though it was quite weathered. And then they also mixed up some special primer for us because primer these days doesn't have rust preventative. And these are square cut nails from the 1860s, and so they would have rusted. In fact, on the west side they are rusting a little bit. We need to go back and touch that up. So then we did two coats of the primer with that good primer, and then 2 coats of the top coat, which has extra UV protection built into it as well. So I think we did a really good job on really preserving the house for a long time to come. And yet, like Linda said, we do have, we ran out of time and we really need to, we have a little bit more to do in completing all the outside painting. So I just wanted to update a little more detail on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
What I would like to say is, you received copies of the master, not the master plan, we call it the interpretive plan, and it's been a real pleasure to work with Brad Richardson and his staff on getting this done. It's a major document. I believe it's nearly 90 pages long, and it really put in perspective the importance of this house. We learned a lot from it. We learned things that we weren't aware of about the house. The community has learned more about it, and this has given us the opportunity to move forward with potential grants for seeing the house in its state that would be acceptable to the public. We are working on, as the nonprofit Jane Weber Evergreen Arboretum nonprofit, we are working on the entire site this year. We're committed to getting a master plan for the entire site, including the grounds around the Stanger House itself. And we're looking forward to sharing that with this group in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure our commission has a lot of questions for you, so I'm going to turn to my colleagues that are online to see if any of them would like to ask the first set of questions. And I am going to look at their photos to see if they nod their heads or raise their hands or something to that effect. Seeing one head no. Okay. Seeing none yet, but you guys can, of course, jump in at any time, raise your hand, or just go ahead and unmute yourself. But in the room, are there any questions?
I have some questions. I'm really happy to see the plan and that it's brought great value to the preservation of this wonderful resource. I remember when we visited the house last and we talked about this plan and, you know, maybe making this plan. One thing that we talked about, and Mark Pearson was there, was about taking some of the plan after it was done and chunking it out into pieces and then coming before the commission with the smaller pieces of restoration for your certificate of appropriateness. So I'm kind of wondering where that is in the planning phase.
When was that?
This will be my third year, so that was 3 years ago.
Since probably your visit, Mike Hale, who was in charge of the project, retired. And
Are you aware of what a certificate of appropriateness is? Is
no,
that a
I'm
term?
not. And
okay.
that's kind of the problem here with Mike retiring. John Caton had hoped to make the meeting here, but didn't,
Okay.
and he probably has more information.
Well, and it will be good for everyone who works with the Stanger House to be aware of the certificate of appropriateness just for future.
Sure.
And to share this with your other colleagues. But all listings that are on the Heritage Register, which the Stanger House is, before anyone can do work on the historic property, they need to come before the commission or to staff, depending on what's going to be done, and document what they're proposing to do, whatever that may be. That may be painting, that may be changing some wood, that whatever the plan is. Staff would guide you through the application itself. Then they would advise you if it's a administrative approval for a certificate that they can approve, then they would walk you through that. If it's more than what they can approve, then it needs to come before the commission. And this is for any types of changes to the historic fabric of the building. And we would have, that would be all property owners who have a listing, that's their responsibility is to come before us for the certificate of appropriateness. And so that's the context.
Okay.
And we're not blasting you. We're simply saying this is really important, and it is an expectation. We understand that you may not have known that, being volunteers or, you know, having different changes, but moving forward, we do expect certificate appropriatenesses to come to us or to staff. And the first starting point is to go to staff to get their advice. You know, some changes or some like repairs don't require the commission approval, but that's where you would consult with our staff to help you make an educated understanding of what was needed. So that's what she is asking. And so when we spoke last, we're super excited that you guys worked with these professionals to get this done. That was a huge undertaking. And then the next step is, like she mentioned, you know, when you are working on a certain piece, then you come before either the staff or the commission with that certificate.
For instance, even removing some of the Weber fabric of the house is controversial.
Right.
It's so even in this document, you should be really careful about removing some of the Weber fabric. And the reason you would come like before us, you know, like if you're going to take down, wasn't there like some stained glass or some just different odd things that didn't really jive with the house? So then you'd come to us and you'd be like, okay, it's time. I think it's time these windows go to the museum, right? And we put in, you know, replica windows that match the rest of the house. And for instance, we would be like, oh, that's so fabulous, right? And then we would give you a certificate of appropriateness. But because of the way the Stanger House has historically been, it's like you guys have seasons of work when it's nice,
Yes.
and then we have dormant seasons. And so when we spoke 3 years ago, it was kind of trying to think about, like, what are you going to do next year? And then come in front of us, like, not next year, but this spring, what is the plan? You know, what are you going to do? Are you going to finish the painting? Are you going to finish the railing? You know, whatever it is that you're going to do inside the house. And then we would have that discussion. And it, like Julie said, if it's really minor, often like priming the house, which is totally needed, staff, I'm pretty sure that's something that they can approve on their own. But for every change in the historic fabric of the house, the stewards of that historic resource are supposed to come to talk to us, because we have a lot of professional knowledge in history and stuff like that. Not that you don't, because I know I've met the staff there and they're just fantastic. So we just love you guys, you know, but we have a lot to offer. And that is kind of part of why we're here, is to issue certificates of appropriateness and watch over the properties on the Clark County Historic Register for changes.
Okay, so Morgan, could a couple of us make an appointment with you and come down and talk about it?
Absolutely. And I think is it Mark who helps them with the city? Because that's what I went with. Mark's online.
Yes, it's a city project.
Yeah. Yeah, I would suggest making a appointment with Mark, who's the city.
Okay.
He's online, Mark Pearson.
Mark Pearson.
And we can all get together too at his office and just have a powwow and kind of help you kind of gather up your ideas of what you're going to do. And then it'll make it a lot easier for you and for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, the proactive piece will help you, because if you're thinking long-term, you already have your certificate in place when you're ready. Because what we don't want to happen is for you to do the work and not come to us, because
Oh, it also helps when there's changeover, because then you have something to go back to, just in case.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I can't wait for my next visit. Maybe we should schedule another visit this spring.
Oh,
See what you guys have done.
yeah,
It's,
Yeah,
oh,
that would be good.
yeah.
really.
When the weather kind of clears up a little.
Yeah.
And I did have another question about part of the plan. There's a big section, and Morgan touched on it, but there's a big section in here about how to interpret the building. And I was curious to know, have you guys had discussions about that? Because like she said, it was a little controversial about how the interpretation is referring back to a period of time that really doesn't exist anymore in the building, and that would be more appropriate to actually interpret it from a different time period. And so, and that some of those fixtures that are being removed are from the period of time that it should be restored to. So there was much more documentation in the interpretive plan. So I'm just curious if the, I apologize, I'm not sure what the group of everyone is called that is managing this. Is it a
nonprofit, I believe.
the nonprofit?
Sure.
Has there been that larger discussion about revisiting what that plan looks like? I know you had mentioned there's going to be a master plan, so is that part of that discussion?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Are you referring to the different styles that seem to be in the house, like colonial or?
Well, it mentions that the home was originally built, I believe, in the mid 19th century, but the remnants of the home that are more intact is more from the early turn of the century, farmhouse Victorian,
Yeah.
and that's what still exists, and yet it's being stripped away to go back to the mid 19th, but yet there's not really any. It's sort of creating a false sense of what actually still remains. I was just reading from the plan itself, but
Yeah.
just feel like it was a really important part of knowing how to move forward. And, you mentioned there are things that are being taken out, and just little alarm bells go off just because the plan itself also addressed those, saying, please don't do those, or if you're going to do those, make sure it's part of this plan and it's well documented and so forth.
And can be reversed.
Right.
Most of what was taken out was an old kitchen that was put in the attic.
I believe seems like it was gone when I was there 3 years ago. It really does seem like there was a lot of work that had been done when I was there. It wasn't like it was in a state of
I do
disrepair.
believe we've done very little on the inside of the house.
Yeah.
Other than sealing some of the floor. But the real work that's gone on is the siding on the outside.
Right.
And the painting, and you heard we had to say about that. That was a great deal of effort.
Yeah, that is so much information.
We've really degraded the history of the house on the inside at all.
No, and
this
we're not
point-
saying that you have, we're just
No, I
looking
know,
into the
I know
future.
that, but I want to assure you that
Yeah, no, we know, we just want to make sure going
kind of
forward.
understand the importance of what you're saying, and
Yeah,
it's important that we do feel that we can follow what you want us
yeah.
to do as well. So my real issue was to get the paint on the outside.
Yeah, and we talked about that
I
3 years
would-
ago when we were there, because that was the big we talked about a lot of things when we were there 3 years ago. But the one thing that the couple things that we did talk about then was trying to preserve with some paint as soon as possible, and then working on this plan and getting a grant for you guys so that you guys could, get some extra help.
Then your question about that era, we have been in debate about that ever since this document came out.
Sure.
We've not made any total decisions on how that's going to work, and I don't know that we're the ones that get to make that decision. So
But it sounds like you're talking about.
we are talking about it, and there's several different approaches that could be made. I
Excellent.
think we'll be looking forward to
Right.
the museum and Brad Richardson and everybody kind of getting involved in how that works.
You have excellent people in your corner, so yeah. And I will say, I was so happy here to hear you say you've painted it, because I was really worried, in general, seeing the pictures in here and that it hadn't been painted in the pictures. So I'm really happy to hear, because that was such a
Sorry,
big
we don't
deal.
have the picture up there.
That's
of
okay.
today.
That's okay. And it was really nice to hear, too, the work you did to try and find the right color, and that you did that research. That's what we like to hear, is that, it's reflecting what it should.
To our volunteers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great, because it's hard to do anything without that.
So I guess you all will be hearing from us shortly about
Great.
ongoing work that we want to continue doing.
We're excited for it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you schedule things from this group, but I would hope that we could schedule you in to visit the property sooner than later on.
Yeah,
In
that's,
the spring while.
Mark will arrange that. Mark with the city? That's why I'm putting him on the hot
Gonna
spot.
push on that real hard.
He was on camera a little while ago while we were talking,
Okay.
and I think he was trying to speak. He's sort of waving to us. Mark, we can stop talking if you would like to say something. Here he is. Okay.
No, but I think visits, I'll defer that to my county cohorts there. But yeah, Linda, we did correspond, I think it looks like last June, and you did ask about the paint. And I said, that's typically exempt unless you wanted to paint it, a fuchsia or a hot pink, probably, right? Something that wasn't maybe appropriate, but yeah, like Chair Bond said, we always love to hear when folks are doing the research and trying to paint it something that's historically appropriate. But yeah, for anything, and Linda, I have your information. I'll send you. There's for properties on the Clark County Heritage Register. There is a very short list of items that you can do without a certificate of appropriateness. And then, as Chair Bond noted, some changes, some repairs are staff reviewed, but then most are need to be reviewed through a certificate of appropriateness by this commission.
And just to rest assured, there are resources for you when you get to that point. There are people to guide you through that process. So we try to make it as undaunting as we can, but do appreciate the proactiveness, because then it'll help you also. If we aren't able to give one for a certain reason, you can go back and do, put things in place and then come again if it's necessary. So.
Okay.
I do believe we've been keeping Mark pretty busy with what we're working on the master plan as well, and he's
Good to hear.
to work with. Thank you.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Anybody else online who wants to make a comment before we let them go? I'm looking at the images of the people I can see. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone jumping up and down. Okay. Well, thank you both very much, and to you too, Rob, for joining us. We've been wondering about the house, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you today. So we appreciate you being here and sharing the plan, because it's 94 pages. And when I saw it, I was like, good. I don't have to sit down with it, but I'm still glad that it's hefty. So thank you very much. Thank you.
So we're done.
you.
You're done. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you feel like listening in, but you don't have to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much to everyone who had questions as well. For moving to the next item on the agenda, staff from the City of Vancouver and Clark County Historical Museum will provide an update for the Donegan Building nomination criteria. So turning that over, I believe, is it to you, Mark? I apologize if it isn't. I don't have the name in front of me.
Yeah.
Or is it just going to Katie? Okay.
I'll just give a short recap and then let Katie talk about the work that she had done. But Mark Person, planner with City of Vancouver, commission reviewed the Donegan building for placement on the Clark County Heritage Register during the December 2023 meeting, and the commission recommended to conditionally approve the building for placement on the register, and asked that criterion number 2, citing the architectural significance of the building, be included. And Katie recently sent that information to us. So with that, I will hand it off to Katie to update us on her findings.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Bush, the public historian at the Clark County Historical Museum. I just want to thank everybody at the Historic Preservation Committee and other attendees for the opportunity to speak tonight. The Clark County Historical Museum appreciates the role the committee plays in preserving history throughout Clark County through their work, including historic nominations. When the commission asked us to provide additional information about the architecture of the Donegan building, we took this opportunity to build a collaborative community partnership with LSW Architects. We are currently in the final stages of finalizing the relationship between our two organizations. Architects at the company are donating their time in kind to the museum through volunteering, and assisting with historic nominations and other future projects focused on architecture and preservation, which is super exciting. We know this partnership will make our community and historic preservation landscape better through the addition of high-quality architectural information and insight from the historic preservation-minded folks at LSW. And this will also help out the museum. Through their volunteering, we won't have to, spend a lot of my time learning about architecture when they have a bunch of folks who are super knowledgeable about all this stuff. So it's been really great to build on this relationship with a really well-known architecture firm. For a brief bit of background on the building, Timothy Donegan was a well-known shoe salesman who constructed the two-story brick building around 1907. It is a two-story early 20th century commercial style building. And the narrative description here gives a lot of great information. It was written by LSW architects, and it really builds on the historic architectural information that was included in the original nomination document. So the building today continues to welcome a bunch of small businesses like it has in the past. And the new owners took great pains to restore the Donegan building back to its turn of the century look, which is reflected on the interior and the exterior as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have to the best of my abilities. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. Again, I will look to my colleagues online to see if they have any questions first. If anyone does, I'm scrolling through. Okay, thank you, Jan, for that. That helps me know. And John, I can't see you, but if you do have any, please feel free. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, anyone in the room have any questions or comments? No, okay.
I just think it's a fabulous partnership that you guys have going on. That's going to be so valuable.
Yeah, that was really great to see, Katie, actually. When I saw that, I was excited you guys have gone the extra mile, and thank you for working with them to put that together. That will be really helpful from now forward to have that in the nomination. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited too, and they're a great organization to work with. So we're stoked. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming back. Okay, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. And at the moment, there's been a proposal that we table the item for the HPC rules and procedures discussion for our next meeting. And if there are any objections, I'm happy to hear them, but if there aren't any objections, then we will go ahead and move forward. So I'll pause to see if there are any objections to tabling that until April. Again, I'm just going to look at faces. Okay. Looks like no one is too opposed to that. Okay, then we will table that rules and procedures for the Clark County Heritage Register for next month. Thank you. Okay. And now we will move on to old business. Bear with me. Okay. So staff and subcommittee members will now provide brief updates on the Interstate Bridge Replacement Section 106 mitigation comment status. I will turn this over to Bart and potentially Morgan if she would like to add, but I'll start with Bart. If Bart, I believe, is online.
Yeah. Hi,
Unless he's
guys.
not feeling well.
I'm not 100%. That's why I'm not in the room, because I don't want to make anybody else not 100%. So thank you. In a nutshell, at our last meeting, we got the second part of presentation from the IBR team, which was great, and I'm sure I speak for everyone that we appreciate their time and doing that. And a couple questions came out of that discussion. Probably the most pressing being that there seemed to be a little disconnect between their expectations on comments for mitigation, where they're at in their public comment process, and the level of attention that we as a group had been paying to it. So after the meeting, that we had several communications, and Haley Ref's team put together this cover memo, which summarizes the properties that are impacted, both that are on our register, and also some other properties that they've deemed significant for a variety of reasons. They've done the same thing for the Oregon side, and they also provided their internal documentation, kind of their worksheet forms that they're working on for their findings of effect, but those are not for public viewing because they're not ready for publishing yet. So the team has access to that, and I think based on the conversations we've had, where we're at right now is that we've got a good foundation of knowledge now to make substantive mitigation recommendations. We have a much better handle on the universe of properties that could potentially be affected or not affected. And we know a lot more about what the trust is dealing with and the reserve. So that's good as well, because that's the whole other side. And we have a little more time to put together comments. So Morgan and Jan have graciously volunteered more of their time. I guess we can call this another subcommittee if that's a useful way to think of it. But basically, Morgan has taken the bull by the horns on this and had several more useful conversations with other stakeholders, and we're going to be able to put together good, useful comments. And I guess the question that comes to mind is, do we want to wait all the way until the next meeting to vet the comments, or just get them done? Because it sounds like from the information that Morgan got that, there will be several steps in this process that we can offer comments, and we're kind of on the front end. And with that, stumbling over myself here, I'd like to maybe ask for Morgan's take, since she's been so helpful on this.
So I had a great conversation with Michelle at DAP, and it's probably why Haley is really communicating with you, Bart. There's just so many different phases of this project, and we are only in one phase of the project, and we are not to the permitting phase. And so they're not going to come to the commission like about properties or certificates of appropriateness or anything until there's a permit and there's a design, because right now we just have a concept like we need a new bridge, and it's going to go somewhere in this footprint. And so from what I understand with Michelle, that we have a baseline document. If anybody else wants to join the subcommittee and look at this document with us, please join in. And basically, a company has gone by and done the baseline study all over again. It's huge. They have listed all the properties and why they're not eligible.
For the national, though.
This is all about the National Register because it's a federal project. But I don't know, I'm not confident that not all of those are on our register either, because I don't really know what's on our register. So what Michelle said was, we have the opportunity right now to make a comment on all of the listed properties that they pointed out to us that are eligible. And just like Haley said in her presentation, we also have the ability to comment on anything in the baseline report. So like if you look through the baseline report and you see this particular house, we'll just say the house you've been kind of eyeing, and you see that there, and you see that they said it's not eligible. Well, we also have to remember that they are only looking at it from the outside, from the street, from the sidewalk. They don't do any historic research. They don't go inside the house. So there is an opportunity for those resources, if they were on the list, we could say, we don't concur with 1510 Main Street. We think it's completely eligible, and this is why. Or we don't even have to tell them why. We can tell them secret, we'll tell you later, you know. The other thing that she said is this is really the time to shoot for the moon for mitigation, because this is federal funding. This is what they talked about at camp. I know Jan's online, and we got Jan on the subcommittee because she's invaluable, and she shared some information about what the reserve was going to get out of the deal. You know, like they're going to get a repository to put all the artifacts in. And so people are going really big with what they want for their mitigation, even if they're not taking down any house in the whole reserve. And so I think it's time. You remember we had a creative mitigation time at the camp. We talked about mitigation. We could reach out to them and get some input if people think we need more ideas on mitigation, because that's kind of what they want. They want to know how they can make this better. Like, for instance, and I already said this to Jan, but, you know, a lot of these buildings are not retrofitted for an earthquake. You know, like, there's a lot of things that we could do, you know, and we could get back in return for this project in the sense of mitigation. And, of course, you know, interpretive signs and maybe, you know, a picture of the old bridge or whatever. But Jan and I and Bart really talked about how the west side is going to be handled by the fort and the Washington and the trust, the historic trust, because they're the, you know, the caretakers of the property. So we don't really need to worry too much about them and their mitigation over there. It's really just this downtown kind of smackling of buildings, and then the smackling of buildings at both of the interchanges at, what is that?
Fourth Plain and 39.
I don't have the website. Thank you. Yeah, I was like, what's the next one? They're going to redo the intersections at those places. So we have a meeting tomorrow to put our heads back together and see what we can do to come up with some useful comments and some useful mitigation ideas to present to them. I'm not sure what their preferred deadline for comments is, Bart.
It seemed flexible based on the last meeting, but the sooner the better was the impression I got. I would ask, we had Katie Abrams from, I think Katie is listening in from the team. Can you hear us, Katie?
Yes, I can, Bart.
Did you have anything you wanted to add? Were we incredibly misstating anything from your perspective?
Hopefully
Well,
not.
I'm really just here to listen and take notes and keep abreast of things that are happening so that I can keep track of your questions and make sure that the right information is shared with you.
Okay, great. Well, I guess just reiterate to Haley and the team that we really appreciate the communication and you
And
know,
the documents.
and the documents.
The documents are really helpful.
The work
Can
you
I
guys
ask a
did.
question? Sorry, can I ask a question? So I saw the document, it listed 12 properties on that one.
Yeah, the one that's in front of us.
It's like
actually.
4 pages, yeah. I don't know if I actually have it. Yes. And then you had mentioned, then there's the baseline. So are there other properties in addition to these 12?
There's a baseline report that is the report of all the properties in the APE, right? So that's both sides of the river.
Okay. And then this distills it down to.
She just distilled it down for us because I asked, you know, at that last meeting, I was just trying to wrap my head around it, and it was so big.
Yeah.
And this really helped a lot.
So my other question is, more of a statement. I feel like before mitigation is documented fully, site visits would be, I think, really helpful. Even if it were to, you know, just visiting all of these 12 properties on the outside to kind of get a sense. I'm seeing blank looks, so maybe not. But to me, a site visit would be helpful, just so I can see the environment, I can see the exterior of the building, I can see what's changed, what hasn't changed. I can kind of get a sense of what that person who did the survey was seeing when they did it, and then have, I think, some very specific mitigation for that specific building by looking at it rather than.
Yeah, so there is specific mitigation, definitely, but then there's broader mitigation. And that's what Michelle at DAP was really, wanting us to remember, that there's broader ways of mitigation. Because just because these 12 properties or whatever, and so many are eligible and so many are not, are on our listings, but it's also the fabric of the downtown, right? So, just to think about that also.
Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't preclude that. I mean, it doesn't exclude.
Well, and that's why I keep thinking about seismic retrofitting and getting a real study done for like the Evergreen Hotel. So.
Yeah. So do you guys need any support, or are you set and poised to do the work that you just described? Or do you need any other support?
Jan?
Why don't we have our meeting and then we can make that ask?
Yeah, we're gonna meet tomorrow for an hour or so. Good idea, Bart.
And so right now it's you and Jan and Bart that are on it? Okay.
But Michelle did want us to know that this is not the only time that we will be brought to the table. This is not the only time we're gonna have to comment. This is just what we're commenting on today.
Okay.
And this is what they want us to do and help with as a stakeholder today, because we are a certified local government and they need to work with us.
Okay.
And we want to work with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So does anybody else have any questions?
This is Jan. I was thinking, one outcome of this down the road is they've done a lot of work to identify a number of properties that are eligible for the National Register, but not on them. And at some point, it would be great if we could reach out to those property owners and encourage them to list on the Clark County Heritage Register.
Excellent idea.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And so, not to belabor the point, but we'll hear, as a commission, we'll hear back from you all about either the mitigation plan, or, because I know Bart had asked that, do you guys want to just move forward with it, or are you going to come back to next meeting and to kind of share with everybody what you've come up with?
I think we should probably share it with everybody before
let's see where we end up after the discussion tomorrow, because if you look at this list again, as you've already said, a big chunk of the things on the memo that they sent us is historic reserve. So the National Park Service and the Trust are looking out for those interests. And there are only really a few properties that are already on our register that are that they're determining eligible for the National Register. The Evergreen Hotel and the National Bank Building are the only two that are on our register that they've determined are eligible for the National Register. And then we've got 3 on our register they're determining are not. So, so I think the 3 of us need to talk about what the path forward is, and then we can determine how we want to present this to the rest of the commission.
That sounds fair. Yeah. Great. Thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Excellent. All right. Next, we will move on to the next item of old business. Susan will be providing us with a brief update on the historical promotions grant approval for the Chalachi Prairie Railroad locomotive repainting project.
Yes, I just wanted to, as you said, give you an update. The staff report and request for approval of the commission's recommendation was considered by the county council on February 27th and was approved, and also put the pictures of the original locomotive and the locomotive as it is today on the website so everybody could see it. And Bart already put together the contract for that applicant and sent it to him. So they are in the same place that all of the other applicants are at right now. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next section, which is commission announcements and events. This is separate from the subcommittee meeting updates. This is just any other announcements or events that anyone would like to share. So if there are any, please indicate and I will call on you.
I have one, Jan.
Yes, go ahead, Jen.
So I know Holly already talked about this, but I do want to reiterate that the Washington Trust Youth Heritage Project, the applications are open for the program now. And I was able to go to the final report out last year of the project, which was in the Tri-Cities. And there was great representation of kids from around the state, but not one kid from Southwest Washington. So it would be really great if we could have a student or two from Southwest Washington that participates this year. The program is free to the students. It's a week-long program and it's in Coopville at EB's Landing this year. So I am hoping between John and Andy, maybe they can help get the word out and get some interest here. It's for high school students. Although I felt like last year, a couple of them were a little younger than that.
I think,
anyway.
yeah, Jan,
Okay.
I think I've actually had someone who was like an 8th grader going into high school do it once.
Okay.
So that might be like the limit. If you can send that information my way, or we actually, that leads into our other event that we have, why I'm at school, because I had students with me until 6 p.m. tonight as we're getting ready for our History Day event on Saturday here. And so, you know, obviously, like, I have some very young historians that would be awesome, an awesome fit for that. I've had 1 or 2 or 3 do it over the years. And so, yeah, make sure I'll try to get that information.
Yeah, I will be happy to send it to you.
Yeah, there's,
Andy, I think you have your hand.
Saturday is a
go ahead.
perfect day to highlight that and get students from all over Southwest Washington informed about that. So.
Okay, sounds great. I will, well, I'll have to send it to Susan and Bart, but they can hopefully forward it on to
Andy,
you.
Andy, did you want to also comment?
I wanted to reiterate John's words about National History Day this coming Saturday. And so I look forward to taking part and look forward to seeing John and possibly any other commissioners who would stop by to visit this wonderful annual event. Thank you.
I'll be there. I'm a judge for it on Saturday.
Oh,
great. Excellent. Right, great. Thank you all. Anybody else have any other announcements or news they'd like to share? Okay. I'm just flipping through. I don't want to miss anyone online. Okay. Right, great. So now we'll move on to subcommittee updates and announcements. We will start with the design review, and Susan is going to give our update for this one, and she's going to share some of the things that we have completed from our website. So we will see a lot of it on our screen in the room and on our tablets. Just 1 second while it's pulled up. So yes, we have updated several of the commission web pages, and we still have more that we're going to work on, but we thought we'd just give you a quick overview of what we have done and then let you all look at it at your convenience. The first page we worked on was the overview page, and most of this text has all been rewritten, and we redesigned the page to make it look a little bit better. And all of the pages, we added the Historic Preservation Commission logo. And other than the overview, all of them also have photos. So as a part of this page, there's a link up here at the top, which goes to a Why Preserve statement that has been put together. And just going to scroll through it really quick. And I'll say Jan and Elaine and
Julie, and really, I mean, Commissioners Bond, Thatcher, and Bader all worked very hard on the text, and we went through all of it and reviewed it. So this is a really great document that we can use and hand out at different events. The next page that was redone is the commission page. And there's the fabulous picture that Commissioner Zingali took. And we've got all of our members listed, and also fabulous pictures of some of the members. And if you would like to send in a picture, we would love to add a few more. So we've got that. And then this is a brand new page, Historic Registers. And we've got a link here to the nomination for the Cedar Creek Gristmill, and we'll be adding links to some of the other pictures. But it outlines all of the historic registers, county, state. Am I making people seasick? Am I going too fast? The national, the Heritage Tree Program, and we're also going to be working on, we haven't updated the historic sites page, which has a map and lists all of the properties, but we're working on that with GIS, and we're going to be updating all of that, and we're going to be adding the heritage trees to that map, which they're not on there right now. So that is the new historic registers page, and then the historic partners page has been updated, the text has been rewritten, and the layout has been changed, and everything's in alphabetical order. So this page has been updated quite a bit. And you'll see these little, I don't know what they're called, expanding content pages or boxes. And so there's a little bit of additional content in those. So that page has also been updated. And then, just to give you an idea, here's one of the pages that hasn't been updated yet, but it does have the logo and some photos and some buttons on the sides to other pages in the historic program section. So working on that, have gotten a ton done and still a lot more to go. So we're pretty excited about everything we've gotten done.
Looks great.
Thanks. Thanks.
Nicely done, everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah, really nice.
Thanks to the commission for the subcommittee, and for Susan for your hard work. So, and like she said, we're getting a lot done. It's fun, actually. Check. Okay. The next subcommittee, demolition and code updates.
Demolition is meeting on the 14th at the museum.
14th? No. Oh, okay.
We have an in-person meeting.
Nice. Great. Thank you. And then outreach, if you have any updates. I think I see Andy.
Nothing
Well,
current.
aside from National History Day, I think we'll have a good report in April regarding progress we made in making contact with folks.
Great, thank you. Okay, and then the last update is for the 2024 CLG grant proposal. Our subcommittee, no major new updates. We have just a small update. We have reached out to several NGOs in our state to get some information to develop our proposal to make it more robust. And we have done that outreach already. And then we are continuing to work on different sections, and then we'll pull it all together and we'll get it accomplished by the deadline, which is the end of April. So we only have a few more meetings left for us to do so. But right now we're waiting for those responses.
I wanted to compliment Julie in inviting former Historic Preservation Chair Sean Dennison to take part and utilizing good talent in in the alumni of the commission. So good job on that too, Julie.
Well, thank you, but I actually can't take the full credit because Morgan is actually the one with the brilliant idea. I jumped for joy, but thank you for that acknowledgement because, yeah, he's a great asset. Great. Let's see. Any questions from any of the commissioners for any of those items? I know we're usually good about asking them when we think of them, but I want to give everyone an opportunity. All right. Just scrolling through. Okay, great. Okay, that leads us to the good of the order. Are there any comments for the good of the order? And I know that I would consider Andy's kind thoughts just a moment ago to be one of the good of the order. Are there any others?
I just want to thank staff for helping and working so hard. Even if it seems like an emergency, they are always there answering questions, and it's been really helpful. Yeah. And I really appreciate them.
I second that for sure.
And we can't underestimate the work of the redesign of our website. And I think it's been a long time coming, and it had not been attended to during the COVID and post-COVID period. And I thought it looked really great. So congratulations on that visual upgrade to what the community sees when they look at the Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you. Thank you. And John, I see your hand raised.
I was just kind of going to echo the sentiments there. The website looks great. It's it's nice to see some of the work everyone has been doing, and thank you to the people that really worked hard on that. But it's nice to see that stuff starting to come to fruition. Thanks. Yeah, it was fun. We were like, hey, we're at a place we can start sharing it with everybody. Yeah, Jen and Elaine and Susan, great subcommittee.
And
thank
yourself,
you.
Of course.
Well, can't do it without you also.
Couldn't do it without you. Fearless leader.
Any other comments? Okay. If not, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
I
move
make a
we
motion
adjourn our
to
meeting.
adjourn this meeting.
I second it.
Okay, excellent. It was moved by put forward by Morgan and seconded by Andy. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, very much. Good luck on the History Day tomorrow. I hope it goes great. We'll see you guys next month.
Well done, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.